It's been a couple of weeks. I apologize, but welcome to this week's edition of the 5-Minute Life Hack. We've been doing some training across the organizations about the Ultimate Team players, and I thought I'd bring a couple stories in that I thought might reiterate that, and you'll see this kind of interspersed in the organizations probably over the next 6 months or a year. But really, really important concepts, and I've just had so many experiences, even in this last week, that I've thought, this is such a good topic and so important. So anyway, let's dive right in. So obviously this week is the Super Bowl. I'm not sure if you'll get this after the Super Bowl or not, but let's talk a little bit about Adam Smith's theory of comparative advantage. I know you didn't wake up this morning ready for an economic lesson, but Adam Smith was an economist from Scotland. I don't know, 150 years ago, something like that. Many of the economic theories we have today are still from him. But he had this theory of comparative advantage, which says if two countries produce things differently, they should really focus on what they do well. So for an example, if one country can make cars for $10,000 and the other country can make them at $15,000, then the one who can make them for $10,000 should make them all and transfer those goods to the other country B. And country B probably likely has a comparative advantage in another good, and they should just share goods and leave the advantages with the country that has the advantages. So maybe one country makes cars better. Maybe the other country can make food better. One should make the cars, one should make the food, and they should trade, because if the other less advantaged country tries to make cars, it's economically inefficient. So that's the economic theory behind comparative advantage. And here's what I was thinking about in compared to teams. So you've got two incredible teams playing for the Super Bowl this week. But the only way teams get better is if individuals sacrifice their own good. So what that means in a Super Bowl team is maybe the running back could be a 200-yard game running back somewhere else if he had 20 carries. But for his team to be good, maybe he can only get 8 carries a game and average 95 yards a game. And that's still, he's an incredible running back. He's still the same guy. But now he's on a championship team because his receivers get 3 or 4 more passes a game, and they're involved in the game, and they're going, and they're willing to block for him more when he's running because they know he's sacrificing for them, and vice versa. And so they're all playing together and playing harder, and they're actually a better unit than they are individuals. And you see that in sports quite a bit, but I think you also see that in business quite a bit. So let me tell you a personal story. So if you've ever been part of a team that is better than the sum of its parts, it's actually pretty incredible. I played on a high school team. We were decent athletes. We were pretty good, but our coach got us to play more as a team, and we played much better and well above our individual talents. And so we had a foreman. His name was Robbie Horsley. He was the guy on the other team that you hated. If he was on the other team, you hated his guts. He did all the little things, all the dirty work. He rebounded, he boxed out, he pushed, he held guys. He did whatever he had to do to win and get a little bit of a competitive advantage. He's the guy you love having on your team. And so Robbie Horsley was a great player. He could have averaged 10, 15 points on any other team, but he knew our team had a lot of scorers. So his job was to rebound, was to play defense, was to get under the skin of some of the other players and just see if he could get in their head. And he did. He did phenomenally well. And so him recognizing his comparative advantage was rebounding and hustle, what allowed the other players on the team to also put forth their comparative advantage, which may have been scoring or may have been getting steals and getting out on fast breaks. And he could rebound and outlet to those guys who could fly like the wind. And so it was a really, really fun team to be a part of. We had a center and a guard who could have scored 20 every game, but they sacrificed some of their shots for other players on the team. And we knew that we had each other's back. And if one guy had 21 game and somebody else had 2, no one cared as long as we got the W. And so being part of a team like that was incredible. Now, in business, we see that all the time in our organizations. And these are usually the people who end up being managers because they're sacrificing for their teammates. This is things like we see guys, bringing in lunch for their teams if they hit some goals, unbeknownst to managers above them, unbeknownst to their managers. They're just doing it because that's how they want to motivate their team, and their team sees that and sees that sacrifice. We see that when, guys are maybe staying behind during lunch to help a new employee improve their skills, whether that's, in a door shop or in the welding shop or at the studio. We see those things all the time. And I think this is probably a harder one, but this is one that I'm dealing with right now. It's also being a team player, meaning you're taking the time to tell the hard truth to someone who's not pulling their weight. And so we as an organization have to be willing to build trust with our teams and our individuals we're working with, but we also have to be willing to tell them the hard truth after we've built that trust. We would love to all be sunshine and roses every day, but that's not reality sometimes. Sometimes we need to step up and say, hey, you're not pulling your weight. I need you to come in on time. I need you to hustle and quit getting on your phone. Like, you're letting the rest of the team down, and it's affecting our performance and our bonuses and really our product out to our client. And so at the end of the day, when you have all team members looking out for each other and raising the bar for each other, it's an incredible organization, incredible thing to be a part of. Last story, my daughter is on a volleyball team right now, and she's a great leader. And she's really, really struggling right now. They've got a player on their team that isn't pulling her weight, and she's not hustling, and she's not doing those things. And she's talking back to coaches, and it drags the whole team down. If you've got 8 players who are hustling and doing everything they can, and one who's pulling the team down and only interested in herself and not putting forth an effort, it really affects the other 8 on the team. And so she's struggling with how to help this individual and how to motivate her and coach her up and get her going. And sometimes you can't, and those people need to leave the organization. And those are hard conversations, but the organization as a whole is better for it. And so that's kind of the idea behind today's life hack is be the person that's helpful, be the one who's sacrificing for your team and building your team up, because they then want to sacrifice more for you and vice versa. I see that all the time in our organizations, and I love our teams for it. That's the culture we build. That's the culture we are. And we also need to be able to tell the hard truths when that needs to happen. So here's my story. I had an individual who came in and said, hey, I'd love to come work in your welding shop. I said, okay, tell me a little bit more about it. Well, I'm in this weird situation. I can only work for about a month, but it would really, really help me out. And I do have a lot of skills, and he's a very hard worker. And so I said, well, let me talk to my team, and if they can use you part-time or full-time for a month, maybe we'll consider it. Our team took time out. Our president of the organization, our head of manufacturing took time out of their day, gave him a shop tour, interviewed him. During the interview, he came in and said, oh, I can only work 2 weeks. I've got to have a hard conversation with that individual to say, you lied to us. You wasted our time, and that didn't help you. And now I'm not going to be willing to stick my neck out for you anymore. You wasted time with some of our top people. And he needs to know that to grow as an individual. He's young. He's a good kid, but he needs to learn these things, or he's not going to realize his potential in life. And so I'm having that conversation with him today. But we have to be willing to have those hard truths and hard conversations. I truly believe he'll be a better person for it. And that's why I'm doing it. It's not out of anger. It's not out of frustration, although I am a little frustrated with the situation. But anyway, that's a conversation I've got to have today. And I think that's part of leadership and part of being a team. So anyway, I appreciate it. I love our team. I love seeing these principles in action, which you guys embody very well. And if there's room for improvement, let's improve. Let's make it. We've had some hard conversations in some of our businesses in the last couple of weeks. Don't take that as a negative. Take that as a challenge to grow. We love what we're building, and we really appreciate the effort. And we hope that all of our team members are ready to grow and to continue building. And once in a while, that's not the case, and we help a few people exit organizations. So anyway, we appreciate it, and have a fantastic day, and go make an impact. Thanks.